Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to discuss about the functions in C. In this video we are going to discuss the definition and the different types of function. Then we are going to discuss the basic working principle of a function, and then we will conclude our video with the function declaration. So by definition, a function is a block of code that performs a specific task. What we do in function, we divide the source code into some smaller part which will perform a specific task. What task? That will be defined by the programmer. Now, what are the advantages of a function? A function divides a complex program into smaller one. So there is a modularity. Then it avoid the repetition of same kind of code. Suppose you need to find a number is a prime number or not. For that, a single loop will be required. Within that, there will be a if else statement. Now, suppose for our problem statement, we need to find 100 prime numbers in different at different times, or we are going to take different input from the user at different times, and we are going to check that number is a prime or not. For that, in the source code, if we do not use function, then we need to write the same for statement or the looping statement 100 times. Now, to reduce this kind of problem, we actually going to use the function. What we are going to do? We are going to write that looping work into a function. Then whenever we need to check a number is a prime or not, we are going to call that function, or we are going to await that function. So it avoids the repetition of the code. Obviously, when I am not writing the same code many number of times, it increases my program readability, or it will be easy to understand for other people. Now, as I am not repeating that code a number of times, obviously it will reduce the chances of error because I am writing less, so I will make less error. If I want to check the logic of checking the number is a prime or not, and I am not using the function, then what we need to do? We need to change it. We need to change the code in 100 places. But when we are using a function, we are going to change only once, and it will be applicable throughout the source code. So these are the 5 advantages we can have using a function. So function can be mainly of two types. What are those? First one is the standard library functions, or simply we can say them as the library functions. And the second one is the user-defined function. So what is a standard library function? Standard library functions which are built in the C programming language. They perform a particular task, and how they are going to perform that is already defined. To use those functions, we just need to call them. Call them means we are awaiting them. And we have used several library functions like printf to take it to print something or generate an output. We have used the scanf to take any kind of input. You may have used the sqrt function, which will find the square root of a number. These are the library functions which are already defined and known to the compiler. We just need to call them. The second kind of functions are user-defined functions. These user-defined functions are actually written by the programmer. Programmer can write his or her function depending on the need or the task need to be performed, what the user-defined function will perform, and how it will perform the task that is defined by the programmer. For user-defined function, we need to declare the function, we need to define the function, and to make the function work, we need to call that function also. So here you need to concentrate on the declaration, definition, and calling of the user-defined function. Do we have used any user-defined function or written any user-defined function? Yes, the main function which is available or which should be there in each and every executable C program is a user-defined function, because for the main function we are writing what it is going to do and how it is going to do. That writing what it is going to do and how it is going to do is called actually the definition of the function. So let us take how our actual function looks like and with a small example. Consider this code. Here what we are doing, we are including stdio.h. Now what is the purpose of including that? This will be cleared when we are going to discuss the library functions like printf or scanf. Then we are declaring a function add. We are coming to this in details in the later section. Then we are defining the main function. In the main function, what we are doing, we are taking three variables x, y, and z, and we are, and after that we are asking for the user to give some input for x, y, and z. Then the values are stored in x variable and the y variable. Now here we are calling the add function with the parameter x and y. The value which will be returned by the add function will be stored in z. Then we are printing the value of x, y, z in this format. So the format is basically x plus y equals to z. The value of x, y, z will be printed. Then we have defined our add function like this. Now let us check when we are going to run that code, how the compiler will run that code. The main function will be executed. So we have already declared these three variables, and the user will be asked to input two variable for input two value for the variable x and y. So suppose the user have given input as 5 for x and for y he have given 6. So with the parameter x and y, that is now it is 5 and it is 6, the add function will be called. Now from this point, the context will be switched to the add function. So the execution will move from main function to the add function. Now in the add function, what we are doing, we are actually storing the value of x in m. The m will have the value of 5 and the n will have the value of y, which is 6. Then we are returning the value of m plus n, that is 11, to the calling function. So this main function is calling the add function. So here main function is called the calling function and the add function is called the called function. So always remember the called function will return the value to the calling function. So the add function will return the value to whom? To the main function. And you can see that that value m plus n will be stored in z. So z will have the value 11. After that, the printf function will be executed. You know that it is a library function. So the printf function will be executed and it will print in this format. 5 plus 6, that is the value of x plus y equals to z, which is now 11. Then the main function will return the 0 value to its calling function. So the question arises, to whom the main function is returning the value. Always remember, the OS or the operating system is calling the main function. So OS is the calling function and main function for OS, it is the called function. So as we know that called function will return to the calling function. So the main function will return this 0 value to the OS. Let us see that by running the same code into our compiler. So we are using the DebC compiler and I have already written the same code. So as we know that it will first, the printf function will ask the user to enter two value of x, y, z. Then it will be stored in x and y. Then we are going to call the add function. Let me add another line. here so that we understand that the execution coming to the add function. Then I'm going to run this code. So it is asking for two values x and y. Suppose I have given 5 and 85 for x and y. Then if I press enter, what will do? It will execute this statement, scanf statement, and it will store the value in x and y. Then the function calling to the add will be executed, and the context will be switched, or the execution will switch to add function, and it will print in add function. So let me check, is that the case or not? So in add function, it is returning the m plus n, that is 5 plus 85 90 to the main function and stored in z. Then the next statement is printf statement. So it is showing in main function. Then I am showing x plus y equals to z. So 5 plus 85 equals to 90. So that is how the context switching is performed in case of function calling, and execution move from the calling function to the called function, and after complete execution of that, it will move from that called function once again back to the calling function. So you can see that we have declared that function in this line. Now the question arises that are the library functions need to be declared or defined, or are they not? Obviously, the declaration and the definition of each and every function should be known to the compiler, but where we are declaring the library functions. See, the stdio.h, this stands for Standard Input Output Header File. It contains the declaration of all library functions which are related to standard input output, or which are related to input output. It have all the declarations for those kind of functions. So the printf function and the scanf functions are declared in the stdio.h. Now, what is declaration? Let us discuss this one. So, in function declaration or prototype declaration, what we actually do, we declare the name of the function, or we mention the name of the function, then how many input arguments it is going to take, and what will be the data type of those input arguments. Then we are going to specify what value it is going to return. So let's us go back to our previous example and see. Here we have declared a user defined function. The name of the function is add. So this is the name. Now it is going to take two input arguments, A and B, and their data type is integer. So how many input argument it is going to take? It is going to take two input argument, and their data type is of integer. And the integer over here is the return type of the function. So we are going to discuss all about that in the next slides. So this is the general form of a function declaration. First, we need to mention the return type. In our case, it was integer. Then we are going to name the function. In our case, it was add. The function name will be followed by a opening parenthesis. Within that opening parenthesis, we are going to mention the input argument. If the function is not taking any input argument, so we do not need to mention anything. We can simply close the parenthesis. Then it will be followed by the semicolon symbol. Now, if the function is taking some input argument, then we need to specify the data type followed by the variable name. The variable name is also optional. You may provide the variable name, or you may not provide the variable name. We have provided the variable name in our example. Now you can see that this part is written in the triangular bracket. Means this part is optional. This part is not necessary. When the function is not taking any input argument, then we are not going to specify any data type or the variable name. Now, if the function is going to take any input argument, that time this part will be needed. Next, if the function is taking any input argument, then we must provide the data type of the input argument, and the name of that input variable is optional, so it is written in the triangular bracket. One thing you shouldn't forget that a function declaration should end with a semicolon. As function declaration is a simple statement, and we know in C each and every simple statement is ended with a semicolon, so the function declaration should end with a semicolon. Next, we are going to write some declaration using some example. So first one is we are going to declare a function. The name of the function is func1, which will take two integer input and return a floating type of value. So as the function is returning a floating type of value, then the return type will be float. The name of the function is func1 that we need to mention. That will be followed by the opening parenthesis, and after that we need to specify the data type of the input argument. So there are two integer input arguments. The first data type is integer. The second, here we can specify the variable. Right now we are not going to specify it because it does not hamper my declaration. The second parameter I need to specify, and those two parameters will be separated by a comma. So the second one is also a integer type of input argument. So that's it. So we can close our opening parenthesis, and the function declaration should end with a semicolon. The other thing we can do is to declare the return type as a float. Then the name of the function is func1. Then we can specify. Then we will specify the input argument data type. We can give the name of the variable and closing the parenthesis and put a semicolon to end the step. Now in these two cases you can see that we have written the function name in the lower case. There is no hard-bound rule that the function name should be in lowercase, or it cannot be in uppercase, or it will not give you any syntactical error or compilation error. But the naming convention says that the function name should be in the lowercase, so we need to follow the naming convention. So let us come to the next one. Next, the function name is function2, and it will take no input argument and return nothing. So when a function is returning nothing, its return type will be of void. That will be followed by the function name. So here the function name is func2, and as it is not taking any input argument, so opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis. And as you know, a function declaration should end with a semicolon. So that's it. Now take another example. Here the function 3 is taking two input arguments. One is of character and another one is of float. So and it is returning a double type of value. So the return type is double. Function name is func3, and it is taking a character. We may specify the name of the variable or we may not, and the second parameter is of float. Here the ordering of the parameter is very much important, because when we are going to call that function, we need to mention the order. If we change the order, then due to some programming logic, the output will not be as desired as you. We are going to discuss that when we are going to discuss the function definition and the function calling part. And the last one is the function 4, which is taking two integer as an input and returning a integer. So what the add function is similar to like that one. Return type is integer and the name of the function is func4 and it is taking two integer value as a input. Now one thing you should know that for this function this is also a valid declaration without mentioning the return type. The reason is that the function by default, the default return type of a function is integer. So when you do not mention any return type for any function, it is assumed that the function return type is integer or the function is going to return a integer value. So whenever there is a function and it is returning an integer value, you may or you may not specify the return type. But for a good programmer, you should mention the return type, or if you do not mention it, by default it will be integer. Next, the question arises where the function can be declared. The function can be declared outside any of the function, what we did in the example, and that same thing can be done within a function also. So here you can see that we are declaring that add function in the main function. For the timing, this will have the same effect on the code. So that's it. That is all about the function declaration. In the next video, we are going to discuss about the function definition and the function call. Thank you and see you in the next video.